Welcome to a place where love whispers, hearts collide, and destiny writes its own story. If you enjoy emotional romance stories that stay with you long after the video ends,
like, subscribe,
and become part of our story.
Soul did not whisper that night. It roared.
Rain lashed against the skyline, sliding down glass towers like silver tears. Neon lights blurred into streaks of red and gold across the wet streets.
The city felt alive.
Dangerous.
Ngozi Okafor stepped out of the black sedan and inhaled sharply. Cold air.
Expensive perfume drifting from the hotel entrance. The faint scent of rain. She adjusted the sleeve of her emerald silk dress, bold but elegant, hugging her curves without apology. Her natural curls framed her face like a crown.
She didn't shrink in foreign spaces. She commanded them.
Tonight's event was hosted by Jungwoo's Corporation, one of Korea's most powerful conglomerates.
A global networking gala. Diplomats. Executives.
Billionaires disguised as humble entrepreneurs.
Ngozi wasn't impressed.
She was here as a senior consultant representing a Nigerian investment group. Brilliant, strategic, respected. She had built her career from nothing.
She did not bow to money. But when she walked into the grand ballroom, the air shifted. Crystal chandeliers glowed overhead.
A live quartet played something hauntingly classical. Conversations hummed in polished Korean and accented English.
And at the center of it all stood him. Jungwoo. Tall. Impeccably tailored.
Dark suit cut to perfection.
His posture alone screamed authority. He didn't laugh loudly.
Didn't move unnecessarily. He simply existed, and people adjusted themselves around him. His face was sculpted with precision, sharp jawline, unreadable eyes, controlled expression.
He looked like a man who had never lost. Ngozi caught him watching her. Not in admiration. In assessment. Her chin lifted.
Let him assess. She walked toward the bar, fully aware of the way attention followed her.
She ordered sparkling water.
I expected something stronger.
The voice was deep. Smooth. Too close. She turned.
Jungwoo. Up close, his presence was heavier. Intense. Controlled energy wrapped in silk and steel. I don't drink with strangers, she replied calmly. A flicker of something, amusement,
passed through his eyes.
You're not here to make friends.
Neither are you. A beat of silence. Electric.
You're the Nigerian consultant, he said. And you're the billionaire who thinks is intimidating.
The corner of his mouth almost moved. Think. She met his gaze head-on.
I'm not impressed by wealth. And I'm not impressed by arrogance. That should have ended it. It didn't. They circled each other in conversation like chess players, challenging trade policies, debating market risks, dissecting corporate ethics. Every time he tried to corner her argument, she flipped it.
He wasn't used to that.
Men around her either flirted or underestimated her.
Jungwoo did neither. He respected intelligence. And she had it in abundance. Hours passed. The ballroom thinned. Rain intensified outside.
By the time they found themselves alone on the terrace overlooking the glittering city, something had shifted.
The professional masks had cracked.
You speak like someone who's had to fight for every seat at the table, he said quietly.
I have. And now? She turned toward him. The city lights caught in her eyes.
Now I build my own tables.
Silence. Not awkward. Heavy. Charged. Thunder rumbled in the distance.
He stepped closer, not touching, just close enough that she felt his warmth through the cool night air. You're different, he said. From everyone here.
She tilted her head. Careful.
That almost sounded like admiration. It was observation. And what do you do with your observations, Mr. CEO? His gaze dropped briefly to her lips, then returned to her eyes.
I act on them. Lightning flashed. The world narrowed.
Rain began to mist onto the terrace, dampening the air between them.
Neither moved away. Ngozi knew better. She had rules. Boundaries. Discipline. He represented complication. Headlines. Power imbalance. And yet,
the way he looked at her wasn't about possession.
It was about challenge. About curiosity.
About control slipping, just slightly. Walk away, she told herself silently. Instead, she said, you're staring.
And you're still here.
The tension broke not with softness, but with intensity.
One step. One breath.
One decision neither of them would admit they'd already made.
The night blurred after that. Laughter that came easier than expected. Conversations that grew less guarded.
Fingers brushing accidentally, then not accidentally.
It wasn't love. It wasn't romance. It was two powerful personalities colliding without armor. And when the storm outside reached its peak, so did they.
Morning came too fast. Pale sunlight filtered through floor-to-ceiling windows.
Ngozi opened her eyes slowly. Silence.
The other side of the bed was empty. Cold. Her chest tightened. Not heartbreak.
Just reality. Of course he left first.
She rose gracefully, dignity intact.
No tears. No regrets.
She dressed quietly, smoothing invisible wrinkles from her dress like she was smoothing the memory itself.
On the table was a simple note.
Last night was unexpected.
J. No promises. No apology.
No invitation.
She folded the note once. Then left. Outside, Seoul was bright again. Clean. Untouched by last night's storm. They would return to their worlds. Powerful CEO. Independent strategist.
That night would become a secret memory.
A reckless collision. Something that was never supposed to matter. Neither of them knew. It already did. The morning light felt cruel. Too bright. Too honest.
Ngozi sat on the edge of her bed, staring at the small white stick resting on her palm.
2 pink lines. Clear.
Unmistakable.
Her throat tightened. No. She blinked. Still there. She had taken the first test at dawn. The second an hour later.
The third just to punish herself for hoping the first 2 were wrong.
All 3 said the same thing. Pregnant. The word echoed in her mind like a verdict. Ngozi Okafor did not make careless mistakes. She was disciplined. Strategic.
Focused. Her entire life had been built on control. Control over her education, her finances, her reputation, her emotions.
Control over men. And yet, one night, one storm, one man who looked at her like she was a challenge instead of an accessory. She pressed her fingers against her lips, trying to steady her breathing. This wasn't fear of motherhood. It was fear of what came attached to it.
Jong-woo. 3 weeks earlier, she had walked out of his penthouse before sunrise with her dignity intact.
She had told herself it was a moment. A spark. Nothing more. He hadn't called. She hadn't expected him to.
Men like him didn't chase women.
They acquired companies.
Merged assets.
Secured legacies. And she had refused to become one. But now, she placed a hand slowly against her stomach. So small. So invisible. And yet already powerful enough to alter everything.
Her phone buzzed on the bedside table, snapping her out of her spiral.
Work emails. Meeting confirmations. Investment reports. Life continuing as if nothing had shifted. She stood up slowly and walked toward the mirror. She looked the same. Glowing skin. Sharp eyes.
Strong posture. But something had changed behind them. You are not weak, she whispered to her reflection.
She wasn't ashamed. She wasn't broken. But she was alone in this.
And that reality stung more than she expected. Later that afternoon, she sat in her doctor's office, fingers intertwined tightly.
The ultrasound room was dim. The gel was cold. And when the soft static sound filled the air, her heart stopped.
A faint rhythm.
Fast. Fragile. Real.
That's the heartbeat, the doctor said gently.
Ngozi's eyes widened. Heartbeat. Not a theory. Not a mistake. A life.
Her life had always been about ambition.
Expansion. Growth.
Now growth had taken on a completely different meaning. Tears gathered in her eyes before she could stop them. She turned her head slightly, refusing to let them fall.
She would not cry over a blessing, even if it complicated everything.
That night, she couldn't sleep. The city outside her apartment window felt quieter than usual. She sat cross-legged on the couch, Jongwoo's business profile open on her laptop.
Articles.
Interviews.
Headlines.
Billionaire prodigy. Emotionally detached genius. The man who doesn't lose. Photographs of him in tailored suits, expression calm, controlled, untouchable. There was not a single public scandal attached to his name. Not one rumor of recklessness. Until her. She shut the laptop sharply. Would he deny it? Would he demand proof? Would he offer money and call it responsibility? Her pride flared at the thought. She did not need his money. She did not need his name. But this child deserved truth. And whether she liked it or not, Jongwoo deserved to know he was going to be a father. She stood and walked to the kitchen, pouring herself water she didn't drink. The thought of facing him made her pulse quicken. Not because she feared him, but because she feared the way he made her feel. That dangerous mix of irritation and attraction. That unsettling awareness. He had looked at her like she was equal. Not exotic. Not temporary. Equal. Which somehow made this harder. Her phone rested on the counter. His number wasn't saved. But she hadn't deleted it either. She stared at the screen for a long time. Then finally typed.
We need to talk.
She hovered over send. Stopped.
Deleted it.
No.
This wasn't a text conversation.
This was life-altering. If she was going to tell Jongwoo he had a child on the way, she would do it face to face. On her terms. With her head high. She would not sound uncertain. She would not sound emotional.
She would not sound like a woman seeking validation. She would sound like a woman delivering information.
Powerful. Direct. Unshaken.
But as she returned to the couch and rested her palm once more against her stomach,
her voice softened. I've got you, she whispered. Silence wrapped around her.
And for the first time since seeing those two pink lines,
her fear shifted. Not into panic. Into resolve. Jongwoo might be powerful. His family might be ruthless. His empire might be vast.
But this child
was hers first. And if he tried to run, she would not chase.
But something in her gut told her
he wouldn't.
Because men like Jongwoo didn't run from ownership.
They claimed it. The real question was, would he claim her too?
The headquarters of JW Group towered over Seoul like a declaration of dominance.
Glass. Steel.
Precision. Ngozi stood across the street for a brief moment, staring up at the building that carried Jongwoo's name in polished silver lettering. This was his kingdom. And she was about to walk in carrying news that could shake it. She adjusted her cream blazer over a fitted black dress.
Minimal makeup. Hair styled flawlessly.
No trace of uncertainty.
If she was going to step into the lion's den, she would do it as a queen. The lobby doors slid open. Marble floors. Silent efficiency. Employees moving like clockwork.
Every head turned. A tall black woman walking with calm authority into a Korean corporate empire was not something they saw every day. The receptionist offered a polite smile. Do you have an appointment?
No, Ngozi replied evenly. But he'll see me. And you are.
She held the receptionist's gaze. Ngozi Okafor.
The name did something.
A flicker of recognition. A subtle shift in posture. Within minutes, a senior assistant appeared, visibly tense. Ms. Okafor, this way.
Of course he hadn't erased her from his world. He just compartmentalized her. The boardroom doors were massive. Frosted glass. Long mahogany table inside.
Ngozi paused just outside as she heard his voice through the walls.
Low. Controlled. Commanding.
Jongwoo was in the middle of a strategic expansion presentation to investors from Tokyo. Numbers projected across a massive screen.
Executives nodding.
He stood at the head of the table like a general before battle. Untouchable.
The assistant knocked.
A brief interruption.
The doors opened.
Every eye shifted toward her. And then,
his.
For the first time since that night, their gazes locked.
Time didn't slow. It sharpened. His expression didn't crumble.
But it changed.
Just slightly.
What is this? One of the executives whispered. Ngozi didn't look at anyone else.
Excuse us, she said calmly. No tremble. No hesitation. The boardroom went silent.
Jongwoo studied her face like he was recalculating an equation. This meeting is not finished, one board member protested.
It is now, Jongwoo said coolly. The room froze. When he spoke like that, people obeyed. Chairs slid back. Papers gathered. Tension thickened. Within moments, the room emptied. The doors shut. Silence pressed in. Just the two of them. He didn't approach her immediately.
He walked slowly to the end of the table instead, placing both palms against the polished wood.
Composed. Measured.
You don't make unannounced appearances, he said. She inhaled once. And you don't disappear after life-altering decisions.
His jaw tightened. There it was. A crack.
What do you want, Ngozi?
Straight to business. Of course.
She walked toward the center of the room, heels clicking softly against the floor. I'm pregnant.
The words landed between them like glass shattering. He didn't blink. Didn't flinch.
but his fingers curled slightly against the table's edge. Silence stretched.
The city skyline glittered behind him through the floor-to-ceiling windows.
"You're sure?" he asked finally. The question sliced.
Her spine straightened. "You think I would come here guessing?"
His gaze sharpened.
"That wasn't what I meant." "Then what did you mean?"
A long pause. He exhaled slowly.
"How far along?"
6 weeks. The number hung heavy.
His eyes flickered, calculating timelines.
Replaying that night.
It aligned.
He knew it did.
Still, he moved carefully. "You're certain it's mine?"
There it was.
The unavoidable question. Ngozi felt heat rise under her skin, not shame.
Anger. "You were the only one," she said coldly. A beat. His eyes searched her face.
Not for deception.
For truth. And he found it. The room felt smaller suddenly. He straightened to his full height and stepped closer. Not aggressively. Intentionally.
"You came here to tell me," he said quietly. "Yes. You're not asking for anything."
"No. Not money. Not protection. Not marriage. Just acknowledgement." Something shifted in his posture then. Something unfamiliar. Responsibility. "You should have called."
"You didn't give me the impression you wanted to hear from me again."
A muscle ticked in his jaw.
"That's not what I said. You didn't have to."
Silence again. But this one was different. Thicker. Charged.
He moved around the table now, closing the distance fully.
They stood only inches apart. "Why come at all?" he asked. Her voice lowered.
"Because whether you like it or not, you're going to be a father."
The word father did something to him. His expression darkened, not in anger. In memory.
In something deeper.
She noticed it.
"You don't look happy," she said carefully. "I don't look surprised either."
She held his gaze.
"So what now?"
That was the real question. He looked at her stomach instinctively.
Barely noticeable. And yet it altered the trajectory of his entire future.
His empire. His legacy. His carefully structured life. He had built everything with precision. This was chaos. But it was his chaos.
And Jongwoo did not abandon what belonged to him.
His eyes lifted to hers again. Cold. Decisive. But beneath it,
something protective flickered.
"We'll handle it," he said. "We?" she challenged. "Yes. We." She studied him carefully. No panic. No denial.
No offer of hush money.
Just quiet ownership. But ownership of what?
The situation? The child?
Or her? Her chin lifted slightly.
"I'm not here to be handled." A faint, dangerous edge entered his voice. "And I'm not the kind of man who walks away from my responsibilities." The air between them crackled. This wasn't a fight. It was a collision of two leaders unwilling to bend. Outside, the city continued as usual. Inside that boardroom, a legacy had just been conceived twice. Once in passion, now in declaration. He took one final step closer. Close enough that his voice dropped to something almost intimate. "I don't care how you feel about me right now," he said. Her heart pounded. "But that child." His gaze locked onto hers. "Is mine." And for the first time since she walked into the building, Ngozi felt it. This wasn't going to be simple. This wasn't going to be quiet. This wasn't going to disappear. The storm they started that night had just found its thunder. The boardroom still felt charged. Like lightning had struck, but the thunder hadn't finished rolling. Ngozi didn't step back. Even though Jongwoo was close enough now that she could feel the warmth of his body through the thin space between them. Power radiated from him. But so did something else. Conflict. "You don't get to claim something like that so easily," she said, voice steady. "You disappeared." His jaw tightened. "I didn't disappear." "You left before sunrise." "That's not the same thing." It felt the same. The words slipped out before she could stop them. And that was dangerous. Because now it wasn't just about the baby. It was about that morning. About waking up alone. About the note that meant nothing and everything at once. He saw it. That flash in her eyes. Not weakness. Hurt. He inhaled slowly. "I leave when things stop being strategic." She let out a soft, incredulous laugh. "Was I a strategy?" His gaze darkened. "No." The answer came too quickly. Too honestly. And that unsettled him. "You were," he paused, searching for a word he wasn't used to using. Unexpected.
She folded her arms.
That's not an explanation. He stepped back slightly now, running a hand through his hair, the first sign of visible agitation she had seen from him. You think I walk away because I don't care? Yes.
Silence. Heavy. His eyes lifted to hers again, sharper now.
I walked away because I cared too much.
The air shifted. She blinked.
What?
That night wasn't controlled. It wasn't calculated.
I don't make decisions without thinking 3 moves ahead.
And I was a bad move, she asked softly. No. His voice lowered.
You were the first move I didn't plan.
Her heart betrayed her by reacting. But she refused to melt. You don't get poetic now, she said. This is real. I'm carrying a child. Your child. At that, something inside him snapped into place. Not anger. Resolve. He closed the distance again, slowly this time, deliberately, until there was no misunderstanding in his posture. I don't care if you hate me, he said quietly. Her pulse spiked.
You don't get to decide that. I don't care if you regret that night.
She swallowed.
You don't get to rewrite it. His voice dropped lower, not loud, not aggressive, but immovable. That's my baby inside you.
The words didn't echo. They settled. Solid. Final. Ngozi's breath caught. There was no arrogance in his tone. No mockery.
No dismissal.
Just ownership. And something fiercely protective beneath it. You don't get to claim me, she whispered. His eyes softened, just slightly.
I'm not claiming you.
A beat.
I'm claiming responsibility.
She searched his face for deception. Found none. You asked if I was sure it was yours, she said quietly.
I had to.
Because you don't trust me.
Because I trust you too much.
Her brows drew together.
What does that even mean? It means, he said carefully, if you say it's mine, then it is. The tension between them changed temperature.
Less explosive. More intimate. But still dangerous. You don't look happy, she said again.
He exhaled slowly, eyes drifting for a brief moment toward the skyline.
I wasn't raised to be happy, he admitted. That caught her off guard.
I was raised to protect legacy.
And what is this to you? She asked.
His gaze dropped instinctively to her stomach again, then back to her face. This, he said, voice steady, is legacy.
Her chest tightened. And me?
The question slipped out before she could guard it.
He didn't answer immediately.
That hesitation cut deeper than she expected.
I don't know what you are yet, he said honestly. But I know you matter.
The vulnerability in that statement was subtle, but real.
He wasn't offering romance. He wasn't promising love. He was offering truth. Unpolished. Unrehearsed.
She turned slightly, walking toward the window, trying to steady her thoughts.
This is why I didn't want to come here, she said softly.
Your world turns everything into a transaction. It doesn't have to.
She looked at him over her shoulder. Then what is this?
He moved to stand beside her, not touching, but close. This is me choosing not to run.
She studied him. He wasn't panicking. He wasn't bargaining. He wasn't threatening. He was standing. Grounded. Present.
I won't force you into anything, he continued. But I won't pretend this isn't mine. And if I decide to raise this child alone?
His jaw tightened slightly. Then I will still provide.
I don't need your money.
I know. That answer surprised her. Then what do you think I need? She asked quietly. He looked at her, really looked at her. Not the strategist. Not the consultant. Not the woman who challenged him at a gala. The woman carrying his child. Support, he said. The word sounded unfamiliar in his mouth. And you think you can give that? I'll learn. It wasn't a romantic declaration. It wasn't polished. But it was real. She could see the war inside him. Between control and emotion. Between legacy and something more human. Why? She asked finally.
Why fight for this?
His eyes didn't waver.
Because I won't let my child grow up wondering if their father chose pride over presence.
The room fell silent again. That wasn't about business. That was about history. About wounds.
About a boy who once stood alone in a house too large and too quiet. Ngozi felt her anger soften, not disappear, but soften. You can't fix this with determination alone, she said gently.
I know.
And you can't control how I feel. I'm not trying to.
He paused. But I'm not walking away either. There it was.
The difference.
The choice. She took a slow breath.
You don't even know if I can forgive you.
His expression didn't change.
I don't need forgiveness.
A beat.
I need to show up.
And in that moment, for the first time since she saw those two pink lines, Ngozi didn't feel alone. Not fully. Not entirely. The storm between them hadn't ended. But it had shifted. It was no longer about blame. It was about what they would build next. Together. Or apart. But never in denial. He turned slightly toward her again, voice quieter now.
I don't care if you hate me today.
Her heart pounded.
But one day. His gaze softened, just enough to betray hope. You won't.
And for the first time, she didn't argue.
The scandal broke at 6:42 a.m. Ngozi was halfway through her morning tea when her phone began vibrating non-stop. Headlines flooded her screen. JW Group heir involved with foreign consultant. Secret pregnancy threatens corporate succession. Mystery woman linked to CEO Jungwoo.
Her chest tightened. She hadn't told anyone. Which meant he had. Or someone had been watching. Her phone rang again. Unknown number.
She stared at it for a long second. Then answered. You've seen the news, Jungwoo's voice said evenly.
Not panicked. Controlled.
Yes.
A pause.
I didn't leak it. I didn't say you did. But you wondered. She didn't deny it. Another silence. Meet me, he said. That's not a request, is it? It's concern.
She exhaled.
Send the location. The private meeting room was on the top floor of JW Group's headquarters. Floor-to-ceiling windows. Neutral tones. Total privacy. But the air inside was anything but calm. When Ngozi entered, Jungwoo wasn't alone. An older man stood near the window. Sharp features. Cold eyes. Silver at his temples. Authority without effort. His father. Chairman Kang. He didn't greet her. He assessed her. So, the chairman said slowly, voice edged with disapproval. This is the complication. Ngozi's spine straightened. My name is Ngozi Okafor. His expression didn't change. You understand what you've done. Her eyes flicked briefly to Jungwoo, who stood silent, jaw tight. What I've done, she replied evenly, is exist. The chairman gave a faint, humorless smile. You think this is about existence? This is about reputation. Investors. Bloodline. Bloodline. The word stung. I'm not an embarrassment, she said quietly. That remains to be determined. Jungwoo stepped forward then. That's enough. His father's gaze sharpened. You will not raise your voice at me over scandal. She's not a scandal. She's pregnant. Silence. The chairman's eyes drifted briefly to Ngozi's stomach. Then back to his son. You will fix this. I intend to. And how exactly? The chairman demanded. That was when Jungwoo said it. I'll marry her. The room froze. Ngozi's head snapped toward him. What? The chairman stared at his son as if he'd just suggested dismantling the company. You will not, the chairman said coldly. Marriage is strategic. So is this, Jungwoo replied. This woman is not from our world. She doesn't need to be. The tension between father and son crackled like exposed wire. You would bind your legacy to a woman you barely know, the chairman pressed. Jungwoo's voice was calm. I know enough. Ngozi found her voice again. You don't get to make that decision for me. Both men turned toward her. I'm not a solution, she continued. And I am not damage control. Jungwoo walked toward her slowly. This protects you. From what? My world. Her eyes flashed. I don't need protection. Yes, you do. That hit deeper than expected. You think I can't handle pressure? I think my family won't play fair. The chairman scoffed. You're proving my point. Ngozi turned fully toward Jungwoo now. You're offering me a contract. I'm offering stability. For who? She challenged. The company? The shareholders? Or your ego? His jaw tightened. For our child. The word our landed heavier this time. She searched his face. You don't love me, she said softly.
No.
The honesty hurt, even though she hadn't expected romance.
But I respect you, he added.
And that's enough for marriage. It can be.
She shook her head slowly.
Marriage is not a merger, Jongwoo.
His father interjected sharply.
This conversation is over.
There will be no marriage.
The child will be provided for privately.
Ngozi felt something inside her ignite. Privately, she repeated.
As indiscreet, the chairman clarified. A financial arrangement.
Her pride flared.
I am not accepting hush money. It's not hush money. It's practicality. It's erasure.
Silence. Jongwoo's eyes darkened. I said I'll marry her. His father stepped closer, lowering his voice.
You will marry the woman I've already selected for you. A union that strengthens this empire.
Ngozi's heart skipped. There's someone else? She asked quietly. Jongwoo didn't look away from his father.
It's a business discussion.
That sounds like an engagement, she said.
It's not official. But it was expected. Silence told her everything she needed to know.
She stepped back slightly.
So this isn't about protecting me, she said. It's about rebelling.
His eyes snapped to hers.
That's not fair. Isn't it? She felt the humiliation creeping in, not because she wanted him desperately, but because she refused to be someone's strategic defiance. I won't be your protest against your father, she said firmly.
You're not.
Then what am I?
He hesitated, and that hesitation was louder than any insult. Her chest tightened.
Exactly.
She turned toward the door.
We're done here.
Ngozi, he called. She stopped, but didn't turn. You don't get to decide alone, he said. Her voice was steady when she answered.
I already did.
She walked out. Not rushed, not shaken, just resolute. Later that night, Jongwoo stood alone in his penthouse.
The city glittered below him.
His phone buzzed.
News channels now speculating publicly about marriage rumors.
Stock prices fluctuating. Investors demanding statements. His father had already scheduled a press conference for damage control. He had two choices. Protect the empire. Or protect his child. And somewhere in between. Protect her. He picked up his phone and dialed her number. She answered after the second ring. What now? She asked quietly. I meant what I said.
You mean the proposal?
Yes.
I already told you.
I don't care if you don't love me, he interrupted softly.
I'll build something you can.
Silence. You think love can be engineered? She asked. No. A pause. But I think trust can. Her breath faltered slightly. I won't marry you out of pressure, she said.
Then don't.
Another pause.
Marry me because I'm not walking away. The sincerity in his voice unsettled her more than dominance ever could. You're asking me to gamble my life, she whispered. I'm gambling mine too.
For the first time. He wasn't speaking like a CEO. He was speaking like a man who had never fought for anything emotional before. And didn't quite know how. I need time, she said finally.
You have it.
He lowered his voice. But understand this. Her heart pounded.
I won't let anyone reduce you to a scandal. Outside, the city lights flickered like distant stars. Inside, two powerful people stood at the edge of something irreversible. Not love. Not yet. But something dangerously close to becoming it. The press conference was scheduled for noon. Every major network in Seoul was present. Speculation had been raging for days. Investors uneasy. Social media brutal. Comment sections merciless. Ngozi watched it live from her apartment, arms folded tightly across her chest. She didn't know what he was going to say. She only knew this was the moment that would define everything. The cameras flashed as Jongwoo stepped up to the podium. Dark suit. Perfect posture. Composed expression. The same man who dominated boardrooms. But today his eyes held something heavier. A reporter didn't hesitate. Is it true that a foreign consultant is pregnant with your child? The room went silent. Ngozi's breath caught. He didn't look down at notes. Didn't defer to PR. He looked directly into the cameras. Yes. Gasps. Murmurs. Another reporter jumped in. Will you deny paternity? No. His voice was steady. Clear. The child is mine. Ngozi's fingers tightened slightly. Will there be a private settlement? Someone asked sharply. His jaw flexed. There will be no settlement. And the woman involved?
That was the question. That was the test. Jongwoo paused, then said, calmly, "She deserves respect." Silence fell across the room.
I will take responsibility, not because I am obligated by scandal, but because I choose to.
Choose.
He stepped away from the podium before further questions could trap him.
The statement was simple. But it was public. Permanent. He had tied his reputation to hers.
Later that evening, there was a knock at Ngozi's door.
She opened it slowly. He stood there without security. Without assistance. Just him. For a moment, neither spoke. "You didn't have to do that," she said quietly.
Yes, I did.
He stepped inside when she moved aside. The apartment felt smaller with him in it.
More intense. You could have kept it vague, she continued.
Corporate language. Distance.
I don't do distance with my child.
The way he said it made her pulse shift.
He walked toward the kitchen table, where prenatal vitamins and medical documents were spread out. His eyes softened slightly. You've been going alone. I'm used to handling things alone.
He didn't like that answer.
I should have been there. You weren't. The truth hung heavy between them.
He didn't argue.
Instead, he picked up one of the ultrasound photos carefully.
Small. Grainy. Sacred. His expression changed. Not dramatically. Subtly.
The kind of change only someone paying attention would notice.
That's the heartbeat? He asked quietly.
Yes.
He stared at it longer than she expected. As if memorizing it. As if grounding himself in it. Then he looked up at her.
I fired Director Park.
She blinked.
What? He made a comment in the boardroom about you being a liability.
Her eyes widened.
You didn't have to.
Yes, he said firmly. I did. There it was again. Not dominance. Protection.
I won't tolerate disrespect, he continued. Not toward you. She crossed her arms lightly, studying him.
Why?
Because you're carrying my child. That's not the only reason.
He hesitated.
And that hesitation told her more than words. He stepped closer, not invading, just near. I don't know how to do this, he admitted quietly. Her breath stilled. Do what? This. He gestured vaguely between them. I know how to negotiate billion-dollar deals. I know how to predict markets. I know how to control outcomes. His voice lowered. But I don't know how to be someone's partner. The word felt foreign in his mouth. She softened despite herself. Then why try? She asked gently. His answer came without calculation. Because when you walked out of that boardroom. He paused. It felt wrong. Wrong. Such a simple word. Yet it carried weight. You're not a rebellion against my father, he continued. And you're not damage control. Then what am I? He stepped even closer now. Close enough that she could see the faint exhaustion under his eyes. You're the mother of my child. A beat. And the only woman who's ever walked away from me. Her lips parted slightly. That bothers you? Yes. The honesty disarmed her. Not because of pride, he added. Because it means I can't command you to stay. You shouldn't want to. I don't. Silence. I want you to choose to. The room shifted again. Less confrontation. More connection. She walked toward the couch slowly and sat down, exhaling. He didn't sit beside her immediately. Instead, he looked around the room. You don't have security, he noted. I don't need it. You do now. She rolled her eyes lightly. There it is. CEO mode. No, he said quietly. Fear mode. She looked up at him. You're afraid. He nodded once. My mother died when I was young. Her breath caught. I didn't know. There's a lot you don't know. His voice wasn't cold. It was raw. My father taught me that legacy is everything. That emotions are distractions. He swallowed slightly. I don't want my child to grow up feeling like a strategic asset. Something in her chest ached. You won't let that happen. I didn't stop it from happening to me. That confession hung in the air. Heavy. Vulnerable. Real. She patted the seat beside her gently. He hesitated only a second before sitting. Close, but not touching. For someone so powerful, she said softly. You carry a lot of fear. I carry responsibility. That's not the same thing.
He turned to look at her.
Teach me the difference.
The request was quiet. Not commanding. Not entitled. A man who had conquered everything except emotional language. She studied him carefully.
This wasn't a performance. This wasn't strategy. This was effort. I won't marry you because you're determined, she said gently.
I know.
I won't stay because you're protective.
I know.
And I won't soften just because you're trying.
He nodded.
I don't want you to.
A long pause.
Then what do you want?
She asked. His eyes dropped briefly to her stomach.
Then back to her face. I want to build something our child won't resent.
Her heart shifted.
You keep talking about the child,
she said quietly. But not about us. He looked at her for a long moment. Because that was the part he didn't know how to define. I don't know what we are yet, he admitted.
But I know I don't want to lose the chance to find out.
There it was. Not love. Not yet.
But something brave.
She reached out slowly. Placed her hand over his. It was a small gesture. But monumental.
His fingers tightened instinctively, not possessive. Grateful.
And for the first time since this began,
Ngozi didn't feel like she was standing alone in the storm.
She felt like someone was standing beside her. Learning. Trying. Staying.
And sometimes, that's where love begins. The contraction started at 2:17 a.m.
Ngozi knew because she had been awake.
She had been restless all night, shifting, breathing, feeling the weight of the life she carried pressing lower. When the first sharp wave hit, she froze. Then exhaled slowly. It's time, she whispered to the quiet apartment. Her hand instinctively reached for her phone.
She didn't hesitate. She called him. It rang once. Twice. He answered on the second ring.
Ngozi.
There was no sleep in his voice. Just alertness.
It's happening.
Silence.
Then movement on his end. Doors opening, keys grabbing, urgency without panic. I'm on my way. He arrived in 8 minutes. Not with security.
Not with flashing lights.
Just him, slightly breathless, hair imperfect, eyes focused entirely on her. He didn't waste time asking unnecessary questions. He slipped an arm around her waist gently as another contraction hit.
I've got you, he said quietly.
The words were simple, but steady. In the hospital room, the world narrowed to white lights and controlled chaos.
Nurses moved efficiently. Monitors beeped.
Ngozi gripped the bed railing during the next contraction, her breath uneven. Jongwoo stayed beside her.
Not issuing commands. Not checking his phone. Not stepping away. Just there.
When she squeezed his hand hard enough to hurt, he didn't flinch. When she glared at him and said, "This is your fault," through clenched teeth,
he almost smiled.
I accept that.
Hours passed. Pain intensified. Fear crept in.
At one point, she looked at him, not as a strategist, not as a woman protecting her pride, but as someone vulnerable. I'm scared, she admitted softly.
He leaned closer.
So am I.
Honest. Not heroic. Human.
You're stronger than you think, he told her.
She shook her head weakly. No.
I'm tired. His thumb brushed gently across her knuckles. Then lean on me. The words settled deep. Because this time, he wasn't offering control. He was offering presence. When the final push came, the room held its breath. And then,
a cry. Sharp. Alive. Powerful. Time stopped.
Ngozi collapsed back against the pillow, tears spilling freely now. Jongwoo didn't realize he was crying until he felt it, a single tear tracing down his face. The nurse placed the baby carefully in his arms first. He froze. The man who commanded billion-dollar decisions. The man who never hesitated. Now standing still. Terrified to move. The baby was small. Warm. Real. His child. His legacy. But not the kind written in contracts. The kind that breathes. He swallowed hard, voice barely above a whisper. Hello. The word trembled. He had never said hello to something that mattered this much. He stepped toward the bed and gently placed the baby against Ngozi's chest. Their eyes met. No pride. No tension. No negotiations. Just awe. She's perfect, Ngozi whispered. He nodded slowly. She is. And then he looked at Ngozi differently than he ever had before.
Not as the woman who challenged him. Not as the scandal that threatened him. But as the woman who had given him something he didn't know he needed. A second chance at family.
Later that night, when the hospital room had quieted and the baby slept peacefully beside them,
Ngozi watched him.
He stood near the window, city lights behind him, staring at the small crib.
His expression wasn't cold anymore. It was reflective. Soft. He felt her eyes on him and turned.
"I don't care if you hated me," he said quietly. Her lips curved slightly. "I never hated you."
He stepped closer.
"I know I started this wrong.
Yes.
I know I don't understand love the way you probably do."
She didn't interrupt.
"But I understand commitment," he continued. "And I understand choice."
He moved to stand beside her bed.
"And I choose you."
Her heart stilled.
"You don't have to," she whispered. "I know." His gaze held hers, steady, certain. "I want to."
The difference mattered.
Tears gathered in her eyes again. "You didn't plan any of this," she said.
No.
"You didn't calculate it."
No.
"And you still stayed." "Yes." Silence stretched between them. Not tense. Not uncertain. Complete. "I love you," she said softly. The words didn't feel forced. They felt earned. He exhaled slowly, as if something inside him had finally unclenched. "I love you too."
And this time,
there was no hesitation.
No strategy. No fear. Just truth. He leaned down and pressed a gentle kiss to her forehead. Then another to their daughter's tiny hand. The man who had once walked away before sunrise now stood grounded. Anchored. Present. He looked at Ngozi again, voice low and sure.
"She will never wonder if her father chose pride over presence." Ngozi reached for his hand. "And she'll never wonder if her mother settled for anything less than respect."
Their fingers intertwined.
Outside, Seoul glittered, powerful and untouchable. Inside that quiet hospital room,
power had been redefined.
Legacy had been rewritten. And love.
Love had never been the plan. But it became the future. If you want more romance like this
video so YouTube knows you believe in love. And subscribe, because the next upload is unforgettable.